into your heart. Breathe with me for a second. This is a spiritual reflection, not a prediction. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. I'm only sharing what your spirit may be trying to understand in a softer, more hopeful way. Because sometimes heaven uses words to calm the parts of us that have been shaking for too long. Dear child, I feel it. Like something that was quiet for a while is starting to stir again. Almost like a promise that fell asleep inside you is waking up, slowly, gently, but undeniably. And the angels, they didn't guide you here by accident. They don't pull a heart toward a message unless something inside that heart is ready to be soothed, strengthened, and reminded. So if you've ever cried over a love that felt lost, if you've ever held your chest in the middle of the night wondering, was it real or was I just hoping? Then I want you to know, I see you, and more than that, heaven saw you. Every tear, every prayer you whispered when nobody knew you were breaking. This isn't the story of a love ending. This is the story of a love that went underground for a season. And now it's pushing back up through the soil. Not because you forced it, not because you chased it, but because some connections, when they're meant to teach, refine, and awaken, cannot be buried by distance, pride, confusion, or time. The angels are placing a gentle truth in front of you. What God has purposefully stitched together doesn't collapse just because people get scared. Sometimes it pauses. Sometimes it goes silent. Sometimes it looks like it's fading. But in the unseen, something is still moving. And I need you to hear this clearly, dear child. You may feel like you were forgotten for a moment, but you were never forgotten by heaven. There's a difference between being left out of someone's choices and being left out of God's hands. You were held, you were covered, you were surrounded. Even in the lonely hours, angels were close, catching your tears, guarding your peace, and whispering, hold on. God is not done, because while you were trying to heal, they were trying to run. They tried to silence the love. They tried to convince themselves it wasn't real. They tried to drown it out with noise, distractions, busy days, and fake strength. But some truths don't fade. They follow. And the angels say the signs became too loud for them to ignore. Dreams they couldn't explain. Memories that hit like waves. That sudden ache when they were surrounded by people but still felt empty. That moment they heard a song, saw a place, smelled something familiar, and your name lit up inside them like a bell that wouldn't stop ringing. They didn't just miss you in a casual way. It was deeper than that. It was the realization that they walked away from someone who carried peace, someone whose presence didn't just feel comforting, but felt sacred. And that realization can shake a person. It can humble a person. It can break pride off of them, because suddenly they're facing what they tried not to admit, that your love wasn't a simple chapter. It was weight. It was meaning. It was alignment. I'm going to say something gently, because I know your heart has been through enough. Sometimes people don't understand the value of a gift until they've lived without it. And the angels say that's part of what happened here. They didn't understand the weight of you, the depth, the purity, the way you love without playing games, the way you held back your ego and still chose kindness, the way you prayed for them in moments they didn't even know they needed prayer. And now, they're seeing it with clearer eyes, not because someone convinced them, not because they suddenly became brave overnight, but because God started touching the places in them that they kept avoiding, the hidden fears, the shame, the immaturity, the pride that always wanted to look unbothered. Heaven has a way of pulling truth to the surface, not to shame someone, but to transform them. And the angels say their resistance is breaking because heaven is louder than fear. So yes, dear child, this is what it can feel like when something is already shifting in the spirit. Even if your phone hasn't buzzed yet, and you haven't seen proof in the physical, it's that strange moment when your chest feels heavy and hopeful at the same time, when you're trying to move on, but something inside you whispers, wait, something isn't finished. And I'm not telling you to chase. I'm not telling you to beg. I'm not telling you to keep yourself stuck in pain. I'm telling you to recognize the difference between obsession and discernment. The angels don't lead you into desperation. They lead you into peace. And if this connection is truly being restored, it won't come back as confusion. It won't come back as half love. It won't come back as mixed signals and emotional games. The angels say what's approaching is something more honest, something that carries repentance, not performance. They're not coming back to test you. They're not coming back to play with your heart. They're coming back because the thought of losing you forever started hurting more than the fear of being vulnerable. They've been thinking about what they would say, rehearsing it in their mind, in the car, before sleep, when they wake up. But every sentence still feels too small and clear to what they feel, because it isn't only one night to the it's restoration. It's a turning point. It's purpose. It's the kind of love that forces someone to face themselves. And that's why it took time, because transformation is not instant, and pride does not die quietly. And let me speak to the part of you that's tired, dear child, the part that wonders if the waiting was pointless, the part that asks, why did I have to be the strong one? Why did I have to be the one who healed in silence? Hear me. The loneliness wasn't punishment. It was preparation. The wait wasn't wasted. The tears weren't ignored. Your prayers touched heaven even when your life looked unchanged. And sometimes God works the loudest in stillness, not because he forgot you, but because he's building something deeper than your impatience can understand. The angels say they're scared you've moved on. They're afraid you'll say no. They're afraid they waited too long. And that fear is pushing them toward honesty. Because living without you started to feel worse than the risk of rejection. That's when pride starts collapsing. That's when excuses get quiet. That's when someone stops pretending and finally admits the truth. I knew it was you. I just didn't know how to handle it. But I want you to hold this next part with wisdom. If someone returns, you don't hand them your heart just because they show emotion. Tears are not the same as change. Words are not the same as consistency. The angels don't want you fooled. They want you safe. So if this reunion is real, it will come with action. It will come with clarity. It will come with accountability. It will come with a new kind of respect that matches the version of you that has grown. Because you are not the same person you were when they left. You've strengthened. You've matured. You've learned. You've had to talk yourself off ledges emotionally. You've had to rebuild your confidence in the dark. And now you're ready for a love that doesn't confuse you, doesn't drain you, and doesn't make you question your worth. The angels say the next version of this connection, if it's truly ordained, will be different because you are different and because they are being refined too. This is why the message feels so intense. It's not just a person returning. It's the possibility of a chapter being redeemed. It's the possibility of a heart being handled correctly this time. It's the possibility of two people meeting again with more truth, more maturity, more humility, and more fear of losing what is sacred. And dear child, if you're still here reading this, don't call it coincidence. Your spirit doesn't stay for random words. Something in you recognized something. Maybe it recognized hope. Maybe it recognized confirmation. Maybe it recognized the simple truth that love can be healed when God is involved. And even if you don't know exactly what will happen next, let this settle you. Heaven is not confused about your worth. Heaven is not unsure about your value. The angels are not questioning what you carry. They see your heart. They see how rare it is. They see how sacred your patience has been, and how deeply you've tried to remain soft in a world that rewards hardness. So tonight, breathe. Release the panic. Put your hand on your heart and remind yourself, I don't have to chase what is meant for me. I don't have to beg for what God authored. If a message is meant to come, it will come. If an apology is real, it will show itself. If a return is ordained, it will arrive with truth, not tricks. And if this reflection touched something deep inside you, then let it be simple. My promise is alive, not because you're forcing anything, but because you're learning to trust again, not in fantasies, but in God's ability to restore what the enemy tried to destroy. They remember your laughter, not as a sound, but as a shelter. The kind of laughter that made the air feel lighter, like the world could finally loosen its grip for a moment. And I can feel it, dear child, that you didn't even realize how much your joy healed them. You thought you were just being you, just trying to survive your own day, just trying to stay soft in a hard world. But your laughter gave them something they didn't know they were starving for. Relief. Hope. A glimpse of peace that didn't come from distractions. They remember your kindness too. Not the kind people perform when they want attention. Not the kind that comes with hidden conditions. Your kindness was quiet, real. It was the kind that doesn't announce itself. It just shows up. The angels saw it. How you gave without keeping score. How you cared without needing applause. How you stayed gentle even when it would have been easier to harden. And that kind of love leaves a mark on the soul. It doesn't fade. It doesn't get replaced. It gets remembered. And here's the part that makes their chest tighten when they're alone. They've tasted imitation, and it has made them desperate for the real thing. Because imitation looks exciting at first, but it doesn't carry peace. It doesn't carry safety. It doesn't carry that my soul can breathe here feeling. So now, everything that once distracted them feels empty. Every laugh that isn't yours feels thin. Every conversation that lacks your depth feels like noise. They are learning, slowly, painfully, that counterfeit love can be loud, but it cannot be holy. It cannot heal. It cannot hold them the way your spirit did. God allowed distance, but not as punishment. Distance was not heaven abandoning you. It was heaven revealing truth. It was a sacred pause meant to expose what was real and what was only temporary. And I know, dear child, you ask yourself sometimes, Why would God let this happen if my heart was sincere? But the angels want you to understand. Sometimes separation is the mirror. It shows people what they ignored when they had easy access. It exposes what they took for granted. It forces the heart to face itself without your warmth nearby to soften everything. And now they can't shake it. Your name, your memory, your love. It echoes in rooms where no one speaks to them the way you did. It follows them into ordinary moments, driving, scrolling, eating, waking up at night. Because love like yours doesn't sit on the surface. It sinks in. It settles. It becomes a standard. And once a soul has tasted something pure, it becomes harder to settle for what is cheap. They are ready to rebuild what they once ignored. And listen closely, dear child. This isn't just about missing you. It's about realizing the weight of what they mishandled. They're ready to nurture what they once treated casually. They're ready to honor what they once rushed past. They're ready to do what they didn't do before. Slow down and treat you like you're sacred, because the angels have been pressing it into their spirit. This is not common. This is not replaceable. This is why it feels like a holy return, a divine redirection. Not because you begged for it, not because you chased it, but because heaven has a way of pulling the blindfold off when the time is right. And you, dear child, you waited in prayer. You waited in silence. You waited even when it hurt. You didn't always understand, but you kept your heart from turning into stone. You kept choosing faith over bitterness. You kept choosing dignity over desperation. And God saw it all. He's replacing your pain with promise. The angels whisper, not because your pain didn't matter, but because your pain was witnessed. And there is a difference between suffering alone and suffering seen by heaven. That's why that scripture keeps rising in your spirit. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now shall spring forth. Isaiah 43:19. It's not just poetry, dear child. It's a reminder that God specializes in making something new where you thought only loss could grow. And I need you to hear this clearly. They're coming with clarity, not confusion. They're coming with conviction, not curiosity. They're coming with a decision they should have made long ago, to fight for you, to cherish you, to love you with intention instead of hesitation, because something in them finally understands. You weren't an option. You were a calling. You weren't just someone. You were the one God whispered into their spirit, even if they tried to ignore it. So don't fear the return. And no, I'm not telling you to forget what hurt you. I'm telling you to discern the difference between manipulation and redemption, because redemption doesn't come with games. It comes with truth. It comes with humility. It comes with responsibility. Redemption doesn't rush your boundaries. It respects them. Restoration doesn't pressure you to forget. It shows you evidence of change,